Okay, hey everybody. So, I promised that I would be back today to finish our Colorwork discussion. I was gone last week. I was back in Indiana with my family. I got to see my 3-month-old nephew for the first time. Ina got to play with her 3.5-year-old cousin, and she wasn't really impressed with the baby, which is funny because I'm not really a baby person either. I like Bree. She was fun, you know, but I'm not a big baby person. So every day with Ina is a better day for me because we're a little bit further away from the baby stage. And I know some people just love babies, but it's just not my thing. But I like older kids. Older kids are really fun. I love working with 4-H kids. And sometimes those sassy teenagers, I kind of like them too. But anyway, today we're going to finish out our Colorwork discussion. And hey, look, I got my hair cut. It's nice and short now. So not going to have that really long hair weighing me down for the summer, giving me headaches, which is good. Anyway, if you are following along with the Colorwork discussion and you want to try knitting this, I cast on 20 stitches. And I knit a row, purled a row, knit a row, purled a row, just in some fingering weight yarn. You can use any weight of yarn that you want, and a needle size appropriate to your yarn. So I used 3s because I have fingering weight yarn. But, you know, if you were using worsted weight, you might want to try 6 or 7. So, just a thought. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the second half of our discussion on Colorwork knitting. And remember, I'm using this Piecework magazine, and I'm looking at this article. So we talked about the parallel floats and rotated floats last time. So this time, let's take a look at twined binding and woven binding. I'm gonna change the angle of the camera, and now that I have my yarn set up, we will look at twined binding first. There we go. Okay. So, with our twined binding, the key to this one is, oh here, let me turn that a little bit so there's not so much of a shadow on our, there we go. So the key to our twined binding is that you are going to take both your yarns, and I have 2 different colors of the darnie here, so I have this lovely green and this lovely yellow, right? You're going to hold both yarns in your right hand, so it's a continental style. And with the new yarn, you always bring it forward over the old yarn. So you are twisting your 2 yarns around each other. So let's just do, I'm just going to knit a couple stitches. Oh, I'm not quite even. Hang on. Let me adjust that. There we go. I'm just going to do a couple stitches here with my green. Oops, there we go. And then I'm going to bring in my yellow. And remember, what we have to do now is, if I'm doing 2 stitches in my yellow, I'm going to do 1 stitch in my yellow and hold both of my yarns together. And then remember that we are going to always bring the new yarn forward over the old yarn. So in order to do that, I need to do it like this. Okay, and then say we're doing 2 stitches in green. Actually, that's always under, isn't it? Sorry, it's hard to see that on the camera. There we go, forward over the old yarn. And then 2 stitches in green, 1, and remember we have to twist them. So, I know I'm doing this really awkwardly, aren't I? But I'm just trying to show you the basics. So, there we go. And then, I'm sure that as you work this, it gets easier. Let's see, and bring the new yarn forward over the old yarn, And then twisty, twisty, twisty. That is something you'll find, that your yarns are going to twist up as you work with them. Not to mention I managed to get one ball where it's under and one ball where it's over my cable. That's not very helpful now, is it? No. So, all right. I have a feeling that if I was doing this in a Portuguese method, I would be having an easier time of it too. But that's okay. So, twisted, 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 twisted. All right, and it does catch your float all the way along the back, which is kind of nice. So, let's see, is this one already twisted? Yeah, it is. Let's go grab my yarn. Let's see. Twist it, twist it, twist it. All right. And yes, there probably is a much easier way of doing this, but I'm just demoing really fast, so I need to make sure this is, there we go. Oh, and here I didn't twist it properly. See how it's not caught right? But that's fine. I'm just going to ignore that. Bring it forward. And I've really got to move this green yarn, it's bugging me. Okay. And here I've got some nice twist built up. So that happens with the rotated floats technique as well. Let's see, there we go. And then let's say we end with yellow. So, and again, I'm sure there are much faster ways to do this. But that's the idea of it right there, where you're catching it. And see, I clearly didn't catch it right here because they aren't twisting around each other. Not bad, not bad. Kind of interesting. Okay. And now I am just going to purl back with both yarns because I don't really want to purl and twine it very badly. So I'm going to reset so that we can go take a look at the woven binding. And there we go. It's a really nice day here today too. I don't know how it is where you are, but it's around 80 degrees and it's sunny. Yesterday was a pretty nice day too. It's a good day for knitting in the shade. I don't know if I would knit in the sunshine, but it's a nice day for knitting in the shade. All right, now we're back over to the beginning again. Okay. So now, let me just put in a couple rows of green, just plain knit green. That way we can try a woven. And that stitch is really loose because of the tail, see that? How I pulled it? I can move that tail right there, that yellow tail, and tighten that stitch down. So if you're a new knitter and you find that you have a little bit of a hole in your knitting where you are joining colors, don't panic too much. When you go and weave it in at the end, it'll be fine. Okay. There we go. And one row of purl, and remember I do that entertaining sort of a Portuguese purl with my thumb. I use my thumb to throw that yarn and color like this. It's very efficient, this Portuguese purl. Kind of keep the yarn here and then under my thumb. And it's just a simple flick of my thumb up and down. And I always use my thumb to sort of tension my pearl and hold my yarn down out of the way so that that pearl stitch doesn't get off my needle. Super efficient. And again, I don't hate to purl because I have an easy, efficient purl. All right, now we're ready to look at the woven binding. So there, look at our funky color work right now because I used both strands and purled back across. Now with the woven binding, our author says that it is not as popular. There's still a few designers and authors that are promoting it, but this method entails knitting every second stitch under and every other stitch over the trailing yarn, thus weaving in the trailing yarn with the knit stitches. So to me that means the first stitch you would knit under, the second stitch knit over, third stitch knit under, fourth stitch knit over on that trailing yarn. So just going to move my yellow up the side here, and since I want to use it, I'm just going to move. There we go. So let's do the same thing again where we knit 2 green. But because I want to bring this yarn into play, I'm still going to put both of them in my right hand. Let me get a little bit of that yellow off, a little bit of the green off there. Now I have some yarn to work with. Okay, so this one we're just going to knit. And now this one, let's employ that method. So we're going to pretend this is our first stitch where we're going to go, let's see, first stitch goes under the trailing yarn. So let's see if I can pop the yellow up over. There we go. And now I'm going to use my yellow. And this one says you would go, let's see, under the trailing yarn and then bring it over the trailing yarn. There we go. And then I have to think a little bit about this. Under the trailing yarn. So let's see, that would be from under the trailing yarn. There we go. And now this one would be over the trailing yarn. Oh, now it's getting easier. And then under the trailing yarn. And then over the trailing yarn. Actually, this isn't bad now that I've got the hang of it. Over and then under. Oh yeah, I quite like this. In fact, I might have to start using this method. Kind of like that. That's how it's starting to look on the back. Oh yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. Let's see, so where was I? Oh, now I have to think. Where was I? Under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Aha! Over. There we go. Okay. Apparently stopping to talk when you're learning how to do this doesn't work quite as well. Over. And then under. Okay, yeah, that is not terrible. I kind of like this one. Gotta say, not a huge fan of rotated floats or twine binding where I'm constantly rotating my yarn, but this is not bad. This is not bad at all. Let's see, so now I should be going under my trailing yarn. Now I'm over my trailing yarn, and then I'm under my trailing yarn, and then I'm over my trailing yarn, and then I am under my trailing yarn. There we go. Finished out the row. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Clearly I don't have quite the hang of it, but you know, a little more practice and I think I could get there. That is not terrible. That is not terrible at all. That was kind of fun. Okay, so there is our study of the 4 different ways that you can do multicolor knitting. Remember, we did the parallel floats and the rotated floats last time. And I'm going to flip this around. You'll see a little sky and my roof. And oh, there's Kelly up close. Okay, there we go. And then today we've done the twined binding and woven binding. And that was kind of fun. That was kind of fun. I would definitely try that woven binding. A little practice, I think I could be pretty decent at that one. So, what do you want to do Wednesday? Wednesday. I'd kind of like to do a series on socks because I've been really into socks. I made 1 pair in this blue. These are just plain vanilla socks. They're top down, 1 at a time, on double points. Standard heel flap, but with my narrow cupped heel and just a standard toe. And then I made a second pair. I'll show you those in a minute. But I was thinking it could be fun to do a little here's how to knit a sock series. So I can discuss different cast-ons that I use for socks, and then we can talk about cuffs a little bit. We can look at different heels, or I can just show you my standard heel. I really like top-down socks. I know some people really like toe-up. I know some people like 2 at a time. Some people like magic loop. Some people like, you know, the new flexi flips, which we do have in stock. The Hiya flexi flips, because it's sort of like combining socks on 2 circs with double points, and I find that I'm actually much faster at knitting socks on double pointed needles. It takes me a lot longer when I use the flexi flips, so that's not the needle for me. I do occasionally do the magic loop method when I'm traveling, but usually only when I'm on an airplane. Otherwise, I really like my double points, so I even took double pointed needles and these socks that I just completed with me last week because I like double points. It's just a personal thing. Everybody learns differently and they like different kinds of needles, and it's okay to like different kinds of needles. Totally fine. And when I write my patterns, I write patterns and it usually says that I've used DPNs, and that doesn't mean you have to. So something that new knitters really get confused on is if I say I've used Addi needles, or I've used Hiya needles, or I've used Chalgu needles, they think they have to use the same needle. And if I said that I've used double points, so if I said I used Hiya double pointed needles, they think you have to use Hiya double pointed needles, and that's not how it is at all. That's not how it is. If you like magic loop, then use magic loop. Or if you really like Chalgu needles instead of Hiya, use those. It's fine. It's totally fine. Just because we say this is what we used, like I use that as a reference point, so that if you have used Hiya and you know that that makes it looser for you, you don't have to use Hiya. You can use something else and you can still get gauge. So that's why I always include it with mine. Now, I have a friend and she said that she wanted crazy socks because I threatened to go into my stash and pull all of my like leftover balls of yarn out and let Ina basically play with them and decide which color came next in a series. And we wound a ball. This is what's left of the ball. This is a crazy ball. See this? Crazy ball of yarn here. This is all leftovers. And I have a lot more. We won't talk about the leftover stash, but I have a lot more. So I wound like a 75 gram ball-ish. It might have been 76 grams. And I did not repeat any stripe at all, and I made a pair of crazy socks for my friend. And Ina helped me pick out the yarn. So if you like crazy socks, if you like socks that don't match, this might be something that you would enjoy doing. So you could take your stash and take your leftovers and just start making a ball and just like wind some off and cut it, wind some off and cut it. Now I will say I did not leave the knots in. I went ahead and I'll flip one of these out. You're gonna love this. And I left like a 2-inch-ish. Look at this. I left a 2-inch tail for each of my colors, and then I went and I wove them all in. Isn't this fun? Look at all my ends in here. So if you really wanted to, you could use a Russian join, or you could, you know, do some fancy method of joining your sock yarns. But I'll tell you, I just did an overhand weaver's knot, wound them into a ball, and then as I came to them, I left about a 2-inch tail and I just cut the knot out. And then I went back in, and I actually like weaving in ends, and I like Kitchener stitch. So when I finished these socks, yeah, I did that because that's what I like. So anyway, I was thinking it just might be kind of fun to do like a little series of like how to knit a sock. So I think Wednesday maybe we will look at that, and I'll give you some like how to get started pointers, and I'll try to find a skein of yarn that we carry in the shop, and we can make socks with that. And then I also want to do more with the tatting, so I want to do kind of that next series of tatting things, because we've looked at self-closing mock rings and double picots and mock picots, and I can't even remember what all I've taught you now with the tatting, but I want to teach you more and show you more, and I got that second Tatsy shuttle, so now I can. So I think Wednesday maybe we'll talk a little bit about socks, and then I'll demonstrate some tatting stuff, and then next week we'll really get into the socks. So we'll just plan for next Monday and Wednesday. And what would that be? Let's see, this today's the 15th, so add 7, so the 22nd. Oh my God, it's June 15th. We're halfway through the month. We're halfway through the year. It just doesn't feel like it, right? Anyway, so Wednesday, June 17th, we will talk about what you need for our little series on socks, and I will demonstrate some tatting. And then the 22nd and the 24th, I think that's Monday and Wednesday, the next Monday and Wednesday, we will take a look at the socks, and I'll talk about cast-ons and my preferred cast-on. I'll show you how I do a cast-on. We'll probably try a twisted German or Old Norwegian. I really love that one. I'll talk about why I like top-down versus toe-up, and why you might like toe-up better. And then we'll look at some other stuff as we go through the sock. So I think that sounds like fun. If anybody else has a better idea, send it to me. That way I know. Don't forget that we have free shipping at $75 and over if you are local to Black Sheep, or if you are going to be in the area, you can always order a local pickup. We are participating as an extra sponsor for the Slow Yarn Crawl this year, and we are having a special drawing for all of our Slow Yarn Crawl participants that purchase from us. So there's like an extra drawing on top of everything else. And don't forget about the hashtag 2020 SYC experience, because that contest is ongoing, and we will be drawing participant prizes soon. And we have a lot of prizes to give out, like a lot of prizes to give out. I think there's 10-ish from Nomadic Knits. I think just Nomadic Knits has 10. And then we're going to give away a couple from Kokomo Yarns, as well as from Black Sheep Fiber Emporium. So we've got lots and lots of prizes and lots of fun. So if you haven't ordered your passport, there's still time. It runs all summer. The Slow Yarn Crawl doesn't end until Labor Day. Plenty of time. And don't forget that if you order from one of your participating shops, or your closest nearby shop if you are in the Pacific Northwest, and we do have 35 shops that are participating, you get your stamp or your sticker to start with. So that gives you kind of a leg up, because you already have a stamp or a sticker, and then it's only 34 more shops to go in order to finish the whole thing, and I know you all want to finish it. So anyway, I hope that you are kind of playing along with that, and I know Tina is doing more knit along with her Bengulben shrug, and I think she's working on the next video to upload to YouTube, hopefully. So don't forget to follow the YouTube channel. I do try to remember to post all of the videos from Facebook there as well. Sometimes I miss one, but I am trying. So anyway, I will see you guys on Wednesday. We'll talk about what you need to follow along with the sock series. and I will demonstrate some more tatting stuff. So I'll see you then.